What do you get when you have every Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS game all loaded on the same handheld? And just for fun, how about every Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, and Sega Game Gear game? If that's something that interests you, then you have come to the right video. Because today, we are going to take a look at the new Nintendo 3DS XL Max. All right, so what exactly is the 3DS Max? Why do I say new 3DS? Well, with the new 3DS, you won't run into any compatibility issues with the later generation Nintendo 3DS games. The new 3DS was the last model 3DS that Nintendo released, and I always use the XL because the screen was beautiful. Yes, this is a mod, a pretty fantastic one at that. And next to the PlayStation Vita, I would say that it's one of the best handheld mods currently available. Now I will stop right there and tell you there are handhelds on the market that are currently more powerful than the new 3DS. Obviously, stuff like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally can run Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, 3DS games. The point of this video is to focus on the Nintendo software running on Nintendo hardware. So if you already have a 3DS laying around, this is the mod for you. Why go spend $500 or $600 on a new handheld if what you really want to play is the Nintendo library? Plus, I know I always say this, but games running on the native hardware is by far going to be the best experience you can have. And as novel as it was at the time, I actually really liked the 3D screen on the Nintendo 3DS. So this 3DS mod runs custom firmware called Luma, and it's actually really easy to install. It could all be done via an SD card. So there is no hardware modifications involved in this. You won't be soldering any chips. And what this custom firmware does is it allows you to load all of your game backups directly onto your 3DS menu, which gives you access to all of your games quick and easy with just a push of a button, or in this case, the touch of the screen. This is my personal 3DS, the one I travel with all the time. And as I said before, I have backups of all of my favorite games from the DS and the 3DS library already installed on this home screen. And also installed on this home screen, I have a lot of emulators, stuff like Virtua NES, which allows me to play NES games, Temper PCE, which allows me to play TurboGrafx games, Pico Drive, which is Sega Genesis, and SNES 9X, which is a Super Nintendo emulator, just to name a few. The amount of fantastic games that exist in the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS library is massive. And to have all of those on one device, especially when the hardware is the actual device that a lot of these games were designed for, it's a no-brainer. It's a really awesome package. Now actually, this is not a new mod. This mod's been around for a little while, but the beauty of it is people are constantly updating the firmware. And if you connect to Wi-Fi, you can actually receive those firmware updates, which I think is really cool, making this ongoing project a lot of fun to be involved with. Now there is one reason why I'm making this video now, and that's because I believe, much like the Nintendo Wii, the 3DS is at what I call its turnaround. So it is the cheapest it's ever been, but it's probably the cheapest it ever will be. In other words, this is the moment right before this console starts to turn into a really sought-after, collectible, retro video game console. I know that sounds weird calling a 3DS or even a new 3DS a retro console, but guess what, guys? We're getting older. Time is not slowing down. So if you don't already have a 3DS, now is the best time to go buy one, just like the Nintendo Wii. Which, speaking of, if you haven't seen the Nintendo Wii mod video, I highly suggest checking it out because the Nintendo Wii is really, really cheap right now. It's not going to get any cheaper. The prices are going to start going up. And that mod is really easy to do. If you want to check it out, the video is right here. And if you enjoy classic and modern video game news and you don't want to miss out on videos like this in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel right here. And until next time, enjoy the journey.